long time. When you compare 7 minutes to 40 minutes, oh my God, it is huge. But let me tell you here, a lot of parties are involved. It's not only you as a moderator who is speaking. There are panelists. There are a lot of things happening. So, let me tell you from my experience, out of 40 minutes, if you keep aside the introduction, the questions, and the conclusion and other things, you keep aside the technicalities, if you keep that aside, the actual conversation, you get only 30 minutes, and this 30 minutes will be is actually very, very short. So you have to plan things well in advance to use that half an hour very effectively. Now, how do you select the panelists? This becomes very, very important. Before you select the panelists, you should know your audience. Before selecting the panelists and approaching them, know who are your audience. In Toastmasters club, it's okay because they're all your club members, or a club of neighboring clubs, members of clubs. But when you're doing it outside, know what age group the audience belong to, what is their preference, what is their background, what is it that audience wants to know from this panel discussion, what are the topics they are interested in. So you need to know, like any other project, you also need to know what is the need to know your audience, and then know your panelists. Okay, when you start selecting your panelists, choose the right panelists and know more about your panelists. Sometimes it might be your friends, they might be your colleagues, but make it a point to pick up your phone and talk to them about what is the knowledge that they have, what is their background, what is their opinions about the topic. Because when you moderate your session, you need to understand what is it that you can expect from all these panelists and what are the appropriate questions to be asked. So it's important for you to know more about the panelists as well before you begin the panel discussion. And select a group of people who have different perspectives. The last thing you want to do in a panel discussion is, you being a moderator, you ask a question, everybody is like, I agree, yes, I agree, yes. You don't want to be having this kind of a conversation. It becomes monotonous, or it becomes really boring. So have a variety of people, different age group, different backgrounds, different you should have a variety in panelists, so that you get different perspective, different ideas, different views, and it's in the hands of the moderator to get all this information out. How many panelists should be okay? Now, how many panelists should you have? This is my personal view. If you are doing a panel discussion at your club, then don't have more than 3 panelists, because 30 minutes, at least if you are giving 2 minutes each, it becomes very difficult for you to have a good conversation. By the time you start, you feel that it's coming to an end if you have more than 3 panelists. Give equal importance and equal time to every panelist. So try not to have more than 3 panelists. Outside, sometimes people demand to have more panelists. That time, don't exceed more than 4 panelists. It becomes very, very difficult, and it becomes crowded at times. And by the time you reach the fourth panelist, you yourself lose that energy and enthusiasm, because you have to do the same thing again for all the 4 people, all the 5 people. So 3 is ideal. Don't cross more than 4 members as your panelists. Now, when you choose a panelist, I'm sure the first thing that you do is go to the experts. Okay. But you should also remember that your panelists should be good communicators also. Let me give you an example. For example, you are doing a panel discussion on Bollywood music. Okay. You would like to invite A.R. Rahman, who is an Oscar winning music director. Who can beat that? You want to get him. But we all know he doesn't like to speak and communicate. He's not that very open person who discusses things openly. He's great at what he's doing. He's one of the best music directors in India. But it's always better to avoid such people who don't want to speak, and maybe go with maybe Himesh Reshamya. Don't ask probing questions which would create some controversies, but they are good at what they are doing. So get people who are good at communicating as well. And always, why should we always invite successful people? What I practice is, when I choose panelists, I also invite people who have failed at some particular if it is a particular theme, then I see to it that somebody has tried something, they have failed and then improved. You get a lot more information from such people. So try to get people like that. And when you're doing it in a club, always choose non-Toastmasters. Remember, this is one time you get to promote Toastmasters to outside your colleagues and members outside. So use that opportunity, make these panelists also promote Toastmasters. Use this opportunity and use this time that you get. Now, how to keep it lively and informative? How can you do it, keep it lively so that everybody is engaged, everybody is curious, and everybody is actively listening to you? So remember that a moderator wears a lot of hats. There are a lot of things that you do, but I'm going to highlight three important things. Remember that uh, a moderator is a facilitator. All of them are coming to listen to the panelists. You have to remember that. So a moderator is only facilitating a discussion. A moderator should be able to start the conversation, continue the conversation, have a good transition, probe somebody to give up more information, and when somebody is really beating around the bush, make them speak to give the answers to the point. This is what a role of moderator is. Also, you act like an energizer. If you just continuously go on asking questions, your panelists are going on answering, level tends to slow down a little, come down a little. And when you sense that, it's easy to sense. With experience, you will know. You have some fun questions or light questions, which brings out the humor in your panelists, or actually creates, doesn't make it very technical and things like that. So you should have such questions also in your kitty. Also, be neutral. Okay, I told you already, everybody is out there as your audience to listen to your panelists and not to listen to your moderator. I understand that you know a lot of things about the subject, you have a lot of knowledge, but no. Okay, you have to take a step back and give importance to your panelists. You, as a moderator, is only uh, facilitating the discussion, and you are not the highlight of the whole discussion there. Okay, remember the objective always. You are a person who has to take it in the right direction. See to it that not deviating or going off track. It is, as moderator, it is your responsibility to get it back to the track. I would compare a moderator to a pilot. A pilot is a very important person. The person is responsible, he or she is responsible to fly the plane. Okay, and you, the audience, is like the passenger sitting in the flight. No, none of you as passengers in the flight are bothered about who is this pilot, who is flying my plane, what is his experience, what is his knowledge, what is his background. You are not bothered about that. Similarly, in a panel discussion, nobody is bothered about how much knowledge does a moderator have or what is the moderator doing. You are only a facilitator, though you are the one who is controlling everything, but you have to step back and give importance to the panelists to give their views and their points. Let me share a incidents. In April, we were all getting into the online mode, and me and two of my colleagues were invited as panelists to one of the theme was about investing in challenging times. And the organizers wanted a moderator who had some experience in finance and investments. And there was one question from the audience about insurance. Unfortunately, our moderator was an insurance agent that time. And before the questions were asked to us, before we would realize what is actually happening, the moderator jumped in and he's like, I know I'm an insurance agent, this is what happens, this is the product, blah, blah, blah. And we panelists are sitting like that, we don't know, we don't understand what is happening. And this moderator is actually trying to sell something, telling the audience, I'll share my contact details, contact me later on. But this is definitely a wrong thing to do. It is not, being a moderator or a panelist, you should remember that this is not a place for you to promote or advertise something. Here, the objective is to get an outcome for the problem or an issue. That should be our focus. Okay, you can follow some formats to make it simple. I have chosen some very simple formats here. The first one is called the hot potato. What happens here is, like, for example, you have a potato packet, you open it, you have three friends with you. What do? Once you open the hot potato, you offer to the first friend, second friend, third friend. So what happens here, applying it to the panel discussion, you have one question and you ask each of the panelists to give the answers to the same questions here. The second one is called the ping pong method. Here, what happens is just like the ping pong going to and fro. What you do is you ask a question, ask the first panelist to answer. You ask the second question, ask the second panelist to answer. So it goes on like this. You ask a question, somebody answers, you ask another question, another person answers. But what you need to remember is don't adopt only one kind of format and continue doing that throughout the session. It becomes really boring. What I usually do use the hot potato method only during the initial the first part of the panel discussion. For example, everybody likes to listen to stories, and when people are telling their own stories, we are all curious and we are all ears to listen to the stories. So what recently I did a session on the path less taken. The session was the panel discussion was about taking the journey of entrepreneurship. So the first question that I asked, so that the panelists can share their stories, where I asked them, what made you embrace this journey of entrepreneurship? How did you become an entrepreneur? So every panelist there had a different story to share, and everybody was curious. Even after the fourth panelist, when the fifth person was sharing their story, we were still attentive to listen to that story. So use only one or two questions where you use the hot potato method. In other places, you use the ping pong method and ask different questions altogether. Whenever you have one question, have the same theme. For example, how I used it in the recent one is I asked them what are the challenges that they faced as entrepreneur, and I specifically, because I knew their background and different kind of businesses, I personalized the questions and asked what were their challenges were. So use your creativity and as per the requirement, combine these formats and ask, and see to it that you always have an audience. You interact with audience, have an audience question and answer session where audience is given an opportunity to speak. Always keep this at the end. I'll tell you why to keep it at the end is because in case you make audience speak in between, there are possibilities that a lot of time is wasted, and there might be a deviation in towards where you're going. It might be really difficult for you as a moderator to get it back to the right direction. So always keep the audience towards the end to be on a safer side. Now, how do you prepare for a panel? This is very important. Just like any other projects in Pathways, you need to prepare for this as well. Research your topics. As a moderator, you need to get your facts and figures right. I'm not telling you should do a PhD in this topic, but you should have good information before you question your panelists and ask. Also, you should be discuss. You should be deciding about welcoming the panelists, who is going to introduce the panelists. Don't ask the panelists to introduce themselves. A lot of waste of time, and sometimes panelists don't know what to speak. So have somebody else to introduce them, or you do the welcoming and introduction. And also don't immediately jump into starting the panel discussion. Always have an opening remark so that you can set the context right. Your audience knows what to expect from the panelists, what the discussion is going to be. And also your panelists also will be reminded about what exactly to speak. So it's very important to have the opening remark and select appropriate questions. See to it that you don't put your panelists on the spot, or make them a little uncomfortable with your questions. See to it that you're very sensitive when you choose your questions, and keep it authentic. When I recently did a session, one of the feedback that I got from the audience was, they were taking a lot of time to answer your questions. Why don't you give your questions beforehand? Now, I don't really agree with this kind of, this kind of a thing, is because you want authenticity and you want honesty in everybody's answer. If you tell them the questions in advance, it looks as if it is, a match fixing, and audience can actually sense it. Discuss with your panelists about what kind of questions you are going to ask, so that it's easy for them to prepare themselves to, but don't tell them what are the exact questions that you're going to ask them. Conclusion: always have a good conclusion. And what I have noticed in the panel discussions is that the moderator asks the panelists, so what is your takeaway from this particular session? Don't do that, because again, your panelists at times are really confused, or they repeat the same thing that was discussed. So what you could do is ask one or two people in the audience to conclude or summarize the whole session. That will be a good thing. If you're not able to do that, then you as a moderator, keep your you summarize the whole thing, or you tell them your takeaway from the whole discussion. Thank everybody, Thank everybody. Thank for the patience, listening to the by the audience. Thanks for the good information that was given by the panelists. Thank them. If there is a gift, you give them. Then conclude the session and hand it over to the MC or whoever are the organizers. Now, there's something called the Murphy's Law. Can somebody unmute and tell me what is this Murphy's Law? Anyone? Please unmute and say. We don't have much time, so.
Karthik.
Yes, Karthik, please. What is Murphy's Law?
Anything that can happen will happen.
Yes, you're right. You're right, Karthik. A round of applause for you. Okay, Murphy's Law says that if it can go wrong, it will. Okay, the only protection and insurance against this is prepare well. Now you may say, how in a prepared speech we can prepare? 100% is in our control. Here there are a lot of people involved, and at times we have to go with the flow because we don't know what the discussion is going to be all about. So what we can do is, you can think about all the things that in the world when you are doing a panel discussions, what are those things that can absolutely go wrong? Think about those situations in your head and prepare mentally. And let me tell you, this will definitely work. If things actually go wrong, then you will be in a position to control that immediately, and the control will be back in your hands. uh, I would like to quote my mentor here, not my mentor, but my mentor for my profession, Gerard Culasso, who says there are zillion things in life which you cannot control, but a very few things which you can control, and concentrate only on things you can control. Okay, it does not apply only on your pathways projects or in roles that you take in Toastmasters, but a lesson definitely that you can apply to your life as well. Okay, things which you can control, prepare. Preparation is the only protection for all that wrong things that can happen. With this, I end my session, and thank you, and open to the question and answer session. Yes. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Hi, Toastmaster Sapna. So the very first question from me.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
We were just talking about the preparation about the panel discussion and what could possibly go wrong.
Yes.
But do you suggest that for a preparation point of view, we should have a kind of a dry run with the panelists before, or we should not have that with them?
See, if you it depends. If you know these panelists very well, if you have an opportunity, always go for a dry run. Okay, if you have time, if people are willing to do that, always good to have a dry run. But then sometimes it is not possible. But what you could do is pick up your phone before the panel discussion, get familiar with your panelists, so that you don't have any surprises that this person is not opening up, and things like that can be avoided. So that if you're prepared, that if you know that this person is not really good in communication, you can handle that situation. So it depends. In a Toastmasters, it's your playground. You can experiment however you want. But I'm talking about outside, it may not be really possible for you. If you are doing an event, a panel discussion for Infosys, and you're calling some other corporates, you may not be in a position to call them, I want to have a dry run. So you have to mentally prepare yourself. Yes, I hope you have answered your question.
Yes, definitely. So
Thank you, Aditya. How many minutes more do I have? Punit has already shown me the red flag.
Sapna, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, Jyotika. I'm scared now. One of the
What for?
professionals is asking me.
No, it
Yes.
was a fantastic session, and I really enjoyed the session. Believe me, I
Thank you, Jyotika.
loved it. It was very nice. I have one question here. Do you think it's important to summarize as a moderator? It's important to summarize because that also establishes a connection with your audience.
Yes.
So what is your take on that?
It's always good to summarize, in the sense, reiterate the points that were discussed, but don't never give your opinions. Okay, the audience wants the opinions and the views and ideas from the panelists. Sometimes it may get diluted. Sometimes you may always never give your opinions. Summarizing is never give your opinions, is what I would say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jyotika.
okay, so Just to add on Toastmaster Jyotika's question on not deriving a conclusion, let's say we are having a panel discussion over here, and Toastmaster Jyotika says one thing, you say another thing. So, as a moderator, do I need to say, okay, as per Toastmaster Sapna, 70% of the world's population is dash, something like that? So, it should be that way, or it should be according to me, or according to the whole session that was conducted, we say that 60 to 70% of the world population is fill in the blanks.
This is my opinion. You need not pinpoint on a particular panelist and say this person said this person said this. The outcome was 60% of things were like this, and you could add in one or two points. Don't put it as your opinion, but the outcome was like this is what you could say. This is so and so person's opinion. So add something, but don't make it very obvious that now you know everything about the subject and this is your opinion, and you don't push it to your audience. So have I answered that, or should I elaborate it?
A bit I could understand, not
Okay,
to be.
the question you asked was 62% of people without hair and things like that. Could you give me another situation if you can?
I mean, like we are talking about this going on virtual meetings with
Yes, yes,
Toastmasters,
yes.
and this could be a panel discussion, how effective it's or how ineffective it is. And at the end, you and Toastmaster Jyotika and let's say other panelists have a different opinion on this. So when we
Yes.
derive a conclusion at the end of a panel discussion, how it should be framed as per Toastmaster Sapna, online meetings are not good or some kind of
Okay.
how it should.
Sometimes what my personal experience is that it is difficult to actually derive at a particular end. Okay, it is very difficult to conclude, and it is not important in life. One question may have different answers, and all the answers are right. Okay, it is not MCQs which we have in our college where out of four options we have only one right answer. Life doesn't work like that, so you have to put different views to the audience and say that it's the audience responsibility to take whatever is right for them. So don't push the solutions, but give them two or three solutions and let the audience decide on what is right and what is wrong. So with experience, I think you will be able to do that. It may sound a little complicated, but then also depending on the situation and the topic, also you have to be very, very alert and put in all those skills as a Toastmaster to come out with this summarizing and the conclusion and all that. Thanks, Aditya.
Right. I mean, that comes with the experience, of course.
And any more questions? I think timer Puneet will mute me
Hi,
after this.
Sapna. Do we have time for one more?
If our timer says okay, then I can take questions.
Yes, take one if it's
Okay, okay,
okay.
Suchi,
Yes.
yes.
Sure.
One last question.
Okay, thank you. It was a very informative session. I can't stop praising it, but I'll quickly
Thank you.
get to the question. My question is, I am by nature, the way I speak is very calm. But since the moderator requires a lot of energy and engagement, how do you suggest? Do you suggest we go against our nature and try to make our voice loud or do all sorts of things? Or is there an alternative?
That is a very, very good question, Suchi. I would say you are definitely a moderator material. Okay. You don't take examples like Arnab Goswami who screeches and screams and things like that. No, a moderator has to be calm. Okay. If you have to have things in control, you have to be calm. Always loud doesn't mean that you are making a point. Just when a child is screaming, if you also scream, the child screams even louder. Okay, if you calmly tell, if you just stare at a person like this, the person who is yelling at you will be calm. So that is the tactic that you use. Okay, so if you are calm and composed, then you are a good material to be a moderator. I can really vouch for that.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much. Thank you so much.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sapna. That was a very insightful and a learning session, I must say. And if I really say, if I open this question for floor for the questions, I bet 1.5 hours for the questions, and the audience that they have learned would be a little less. So what I will do, I will leave the audience to get me or or Siddhant your questions. We will pass on your questions to Toastmaster Sapna and get back to you with the answers from her. Can we do that, Toastmaster Sapna?
Yes, yes, definitely. Please pass on the questions and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
So here you go, guys. So if you have any questions, do not worry. Just send your questions to us and we will make sure that it reaches Toastmaster Sapna and we'll get answers for you and reach back to you. Thank you so much again, Toastmaster Sapna, for that session. Okay. Now let me move to the next section of this meeting. The next session of the meeting is table topics relay. What is different in this part from a very conventional table topic section is that today we have a team of 2 Toastmasters who have teamed up together and they're gonna speak upon the topics or the objects given by our table topics master, Toastmaster Siddhant. Toastmaster Siddhant, thank you very much for hosting this session. And just to introduce everyone who is Toastmaster Siddhant, let me first thank Toastmaster Kushagra, who introduced me to Toastmaster Siddhant, and I was a part of one of his interviews in his own club meeting. Toastmaster Siddhant is a very good friend of mine, and he has been working with Infosys for over 2 years now. He really loves the team engagement and the event management activities, and that is why he has found himself in the Toastmasters community, and he is really enjoying every day of it, as he says. So without any further ado, let me welcome on stage our table topic master for the evening, Toastmaster Siddhant. Toastmaster Siddhant, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Aditya, for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy that we found this opportunity to have a collaboration with Mohali DC. I really worked a lot for this collaboration, and finally, the day has come and we're executing the event. Well, without any further ado, about 100 years ago, American novelist and essayist Mark Twain was a famous throughout the world for his public speaking skill. Al- Although celebrated for his really wit and seemingly effortlessly ability to speak impromptu, Twain realized that off the cliff speaking wasn't nearly as easy as he made it appear on the stage. On more than one occasions, he admitted that it usually took him 3 weeks to practice just one line. Speaking on a feet is a skill which one can acquire. In Toastmasters, we call that skill as table topics. Table topics is Toastmasters' way of teaching impromptu and speaking skills. This is a perfect way to inject serious fun, yes, serious fun into the Toastmasters meeting. Today, we have sprinkled some salt, the salt of magic. The magic is the table topic relay. So compared to a general table topic session, we have tweaked it a bit and made a team. I'm quickly